say, every day is for the thief, one day for the owner of the house. But ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission, has reversed the role. It is now every day for the owner of the house. If you're involved in bribery, over-invoicing, or any shady deal, the day of reckoning has come. ICPC, the Anti-Corruption Commission.
According to Cambridge Dictionary, a budget is a plan that shows how much money a person or organization will earn and how much they will need or be able to spend. Annually, the government makes appropriations aimed at providing amenities for the betterment of the people. However, it is not enough to just draw up a budget without seeing to it that the projects and items contained in it are properly implemented for the good of the citizens. And this can only be achieved through proper monitoring. Citizens' engagement in the budget process enables them to participate in governance as well as hold government accountable when things are not done properly. Hello viewers, welcome to yet another exciting edition of Corruption Must Go, ICPC's weekly television program. My name is Murna Barnabas Atiai. Today on the program, we will beam our searchlight on budget processes and how ICPC has engaged citizens in budget monitoring and implementation to aid the fight against corruption. Details of this and more come up shortly after our segment on anti-corruption stories with Ruth Awodi. It's over to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Murna. I am Ruth Awodi with Anti-Corruption Stories. The enduring efforts of ICPC in improving corporate governance through innovative, professional, and effective mechanisms in MDAs have been commended by the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Malam Muhammad Musa Bello. Malam Bello, who made this assertion during a sensitization workshop for top management staff of the Federal Capital Territory Administration, FCTA, recently in Abuja, commended the Commission's Ethics and Integrity Compliance Scorecard, in which FCTA emerged as top scorer in the year 2020 rating, stating that the success was attributable to the active role played by the FCT Anti-Corruption and Transparency Unit, ACTU.
Even if you are not corrupt, you should not be an observer. Because if you do not fight corruption, then it is going to finish you. Take a typical example. If you allow corruption in the medical system happen, and you said, well, it doesn't affect me, you don't know tomorrow you will be the victim that needs emergency attention in the outpatient department or in the emergency room. I will be surprised. If, for instance, you allow corruption to supply you a vial of insulin, and I'm telling you this because I had a personal experience, that supplies you insulin in a container that is not insulin, and you are there in a coma or whatever that you need to be revived, and instead of getting the right dose of medicine, you are giving the wrong dose of medicine. It's death. I'm telling you this because way back in 1990, I had an uncle of blessed memory who served in the state up to the position of a permanent secretary. In his old age, he had diabetes. One day I visited him and he sent me to give me some money actually to go and buy him his normal insulin for him to inject. As I was going out, he told me, please, go to XYZ pharmacy because there they will not sell adulterated. Then I asked him, I said, my uncle, sir, would somebody sell an adulterated insulin knowing fully well that once a person is administered that, his position will deteriorate and maybe lead to death? He smiled at me, I recall very vividly. He smiled at me and said, well, for money, people can do anything. So the point I'm trying to say here is that don't be part of those with the conspiracy of silence. Things are happening around you. Your body language tells you, your inner feeling tells you, and your physical sense shows you, yet you pretend it doesn't happen. Because one day it will affect you. In all my public sector career, I've worked very closely with the previous chairman of the ICPC, and including this particular hardworking, innovative chairman. And I've been the better for it because I've seen in the ICPC a government agency established by law that has worked very meticulously and professionally to try to improve the system of governance in this country. And like I said, up to units in MDAs are not meant to hunt anybody. They are basically meant there to revive the civil service work culture, to revive and ensure that there is correct corporate governance. And I always tell people, government work is probably the most easiest work to do. Easy in the sense that everything you do is codified, is governed by rules and regulations. And all you need to do is just follow the rules and regulations as established. And you would go and work efficiently, provide needed service to the population, to the people, and above all, when you go home, you sleep well.
Earlier in his goodwill message, the chairman of ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasonye, SAN, represented by the Director, Systems Study and Review Department, ICPC, Mr. Abia Udofia, had told participants that Act 2 was not aimed at witch-hunting staff, but to serve as a cleaning agent to assist the ministry and spread the gospel of anti-corruption, as well as complement the efforts of management to ensure that things were done the right way.
The Act 2 is not an agent to witch-hunt or to harass staff. It is a cleaning agent to assist the ministry and to help us sermonize and preach the gospel of anti-corruption. They are not to witch-hunt, they are not to harass, and they are not to embarrass anybody.
In his remarks, the Permanent Secretary FCTA, Mr. Olushola Adeshola, said that the unsavory effects of corruption and other associated ills could not be overemphasized, as it had the propensity to largely undermine the developmental strides and programs of any administration or country.
It is not just a one-off lecture. This is the beginning of a series of conversations and engagement on anti-corruption activity. Accordingly, therefore, your presence here today is a proof of your willingness and commitment to lend your support to the FCT administration's determination to fight corruption and institute structures that promote good governance, probity, and accountability.
It's a day of quotes This is by Ahmed Adi Chalabi, one-time Iraqi National Congress founder and president of the Governing Council of Iraq. He said, the fight against corruption is not bound to high-profile arrests. We've been hearing that from the ICPC today, and arrest and investigations. But the fight against corruption is successful if we prevent corruption from taking place in the first place. And that will only happen when we have the correct system in place, robust policies in place, and of course, like the Honorable Minister said when he was giving his remarks this morning, he said the public service is the easiest place to work. There are already guidelines. There are regulations, civil service regulation, scheme of service, code of conduct, all of that are there. So if we can abide by it, then we will have very little problem.
Thereafter, 3 insightful lectures were delivered by ICPC officers on the topics combating corruption in the public service and entrenching integrity, transparency, and accountability in the workplace, whistleblowing protection reward system, and an overview of the ICPC Ethics and Integrity Compliance Scorecard. In her vote of thanks, the actual chairperson, FCTA, Ms. Bumi Olowokere, said the active participation of staff during the lecture showed their commitment to the fight against corruption. She pledged that FCTA would always be a reference point in the fight against corruption amongst MDAs and Nigeria at large.
If you're just joining us, this is Corruption Must Go. The Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000 empowers ICPC to educate and enlighten the public on and against corruption, and one of the ways through which citizens are enlisted in the anti-corruption fight is through Citizens Engagement Forum and capacity building for the grassroots on budget processes. These engagements teach citizens about their rights to make input into budget drafting and monitoring, and gives them the opportunity to air their opinions, suggestions, and grievances so as to check abuse of public funds and avoid the diversion of financial resources meant for specific projects by those implementing the budget. It also serves as a medium through which the government can feel the pulse of the people. Our media crew spoke to a representative from Connected Development Code, a non-governmental organization and one of the members of ICPC's National Anti-Corruption Coalition.
Citizens are meant to be part of government because all of us, me and you, all of us cannot be leaders, and that is why we choose one person to represent us. So that person that is representing us, ideally, he is meant to carry us along. How is he carrying us along? He is meant to do the governance with us, by us, and for us. Now, if he is doing it with us before putting a budget or creating a budget document, he needs to do what is called need assessment for us to inform him that this is what we want. But this is not what we see. You go to communities, you see a hospital lock on key, and then there is another budget for that same hospital to be built. What the community needs is classes. Maybe what the community needs is potable water. You understand? But as citizen, all you need to do is to create ownership. What the government are providing, you should know that the government are not doing you a favor. What they are doing is they are using your own funds. Because you're a taxpayer. If you think you don't pay tax, maybe you're in the community, you buy fura, you buy garau, you buy amala, you buy iwedu, and all these things. Now, the people that are selling this pay what is called levy to the local government, pay taxes. And these taxes are meant to, are being paid from the money you pay. If you enter transport, the transport pay some sort of tax. So it's to sort of, follow up. And that is what we have been saying, we have been doing with Follow the Money, to sort of, get citizens to have that sense of ownership so that they can be able to own what the government is doing, so citizens are meant to know that this thing government is doing, if they did it well, it's who benefits from it. It's the citizen. And if they didn't do it well, who benefit from it is the people as well. So what they are meant to do is basically to have that sort of ownership and then follow up in the sense that take charge, ask questions, because democracy is all about demand and supply, question and answer. So basically, Connected Development as an organization has different sort of initiatives. One of our initiatives is Follow the Money. And with Follow the Money, understanding that we can't be everywhere, right? So we create Follow the Money to sort of track government spendings and international aid spending. But in particular, basic education, basic health, water and sanitation, right? And sort of, what do? We don't go ahead to do it ourselves. We go ahead to engage citizens to do it. What we basically do is to support them. Now, be like their mouthpiece to encourage them to speak, because we are mindful of sustainability and stability. How are they able to see this need for them to continue? As an organization or as a movement, Follow the Money is a movement. We're in 9 African countries as we speak, right? We have chapters in the 36 states. Basically what we do is to help people get that ownership, is to help people understand that governance is all about them, and without them, the people in government cannot be there. So to say, we're differentiating between governance and government. And basically that is what we do. ICPC is an anti-corrupt agency. And you and I know that the present government is fighting what is called corruption. Corruption has been a backbone that has been eating us all. Today, I'm not an economist, but I'm happy to tell you that it's a sad reality. Our debt service is on the increase. You know, the informal sector in our economy is the one driving more than the formal structure, which is a problem. So, sort of our collaboration of recent, we went on a sensitization visit between CODE and ICPC at the NYSC camp. And what we're doing is to sensitize young people, the NYSC members, the co-members, to understand that there is a problem called corruption. And it's a fight between all of us, but the ICPC, but CODE, and every other person. So our collaboration is, we're not antagonistic, we're not antagonizing government, and that is why we partner with ICPC. It's a mandate for ICPC to say, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and then we come, have a collaboration and be able to, sensitize people. And we have been seeing impact. What are the impact? Young people today in the NYSC camp, or we went to the NYSC camp, we were able to educate young people that, hey, corruption has been a problem. When we went to the NYSC camp in Abuja, the whole was not really completed, right? It sort of shows that there is an abandoned project. But if you don't ask questions, where will we go? We will not go anywhere. And one of the points of our own collaboration, in our mandate as Connected Development, as Follow the Money, we don't take anybody to court, but we can petition, and we have petitioned a whole lot of petitions to ICPC. It's now left for ICPC to do the needful. And if ICPC is doing, we collaborated with ICPC in tracking constituency project, and we have seen massive result. Contractors mobilizing back to site because they are afraid of ICPC coming. ICPC has the power of sending them to court, jail, and what have you. It's a good collaboration, so to say.
To enhance effective democratic governance and accountability, it is important that citizens who are the first-hand beneficiaries of government-funded projects get involved in budget processes beginning from conceptualization up to execution. To this end, ICPC, in collaboration with United Nations Development Programme UNDP, conceived the Capacity Building for the Grassroots on Budget Processes initiative, during which they provided training and support for people at the grassroots in 17 states across Nigeria from 2012 to 2017. Recently, The Corruption Must Go crew also spoke to some citizens on the important role they can play on the subject, and here is what they have to say.
Well, basically, budget is one of the greatest legislations that affect every citizen of Nigeria, because the essence of the budget is to show what government wants to do for the welfare of the people. Unfortunately, most of the times we have had it like a top-bottom approach, that civil servants or government agents, they sit down in the office and concoct some things which they think will be for the welfare of the people, while not knowing the real needs of the people. And so that is why it is important that even right from the period of preparing the budget, let there be a kind of survey. Find out from the people what are the things they need. You know, there was a time we had something like they call needs assessment. What does this community need? It's not just for one person to sit down and think that, yes, this is what they need. We cannot speak their minds. So when people are asked about what things they expect from government right from the beginning of the process, then the minds of the people will be tuned to the fact that this is what they are also expecting. So when the budget is now prepared, they can now follow up to say that, all right, what we ask government to do, how far are they going about it?
I think it's common sense that people should be interested in, the budget that the government prepares and implements in their own area of residence or interest. Against the background of the fact that if you do not show interest in that process, then you are also saying that your priority areas may not have to be satisfied in the project that come up. To that extent that the urban governance ideals these days will tell you that there is this approach to governance that has to do with bottom-up approach instead of top-down, where professionals, technocrats believe that they know all that people need, and then they conceptualize and hand it down. So much so that people tend to also see that as government's own. Whereas, if they had been part of taking the decision as to what are the priorities, what are the ends we want to meet, what are the procedures we want to follow, then they would have owned what is coming out of it. And then they will be interested in seeing it being implemented according to the plan. They know how much was supposed to be spent and can imagine whether that amount is really what has been spent.
Citizens play an important role in governance as recipients of policies and decisions. They must therefore take on the challenge to be part of this process by engaging in budget processes and follow through to ensure that it is properly implemented. The more transparency and accountability is injected into budget processes, the less likely it is for budget-related corruption to occur. Remember, for the fight against corruption to be effective, it involves the participation of every Nigerian. Please call on any of the ICPC toll-free numbers shown on the screen to report any act of corruption. That's our package in this week's edition. You can also watch the program on our YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/ICPC Nigeria. See you again next week. Until then, bye for now. I am Murna Barnabas Atiai.